to another powerful episode of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we peel back the layers of what it really means to be a man in today's world and talk openly about the stuff most people are afraid to say it loud. Yeah. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is raw, real, and potentially life saving. Yes. So, dear listeners, joining us today, the two lovely guests, Deborah and Brian. So, welcome to the show, Deborah and Brian.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Amazing, amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Deborah and Brian. So, Deborah is a certified healthcare aide, suicide first aid responder, published author, and a survivor of unimaginable trauma. So, her book, Spots on a Leopard, EMDR Saved My Life, is a testimony of perseverances through the decades of abuse, shame, and the multiple suicide attempts before finding healing through EMDR therapy. But today's story doesn't stop with her. We're also bringing forward the voice of Brian. So, Deborah's survivor partner and a man whose suicide attempt nearly ended his life. But, but yes, ultimately became the turning point for a new beginning. His story is gripping on a cold December morning, had a breakfast, sent a few texts, walked quietly to a bridge, and jumped. So, dear listeners, he died twice on the operating table, but he's alive. He's alive and he's talking, and his voice might be the one another man needs to hear today, dear listeners. Yes. And Deborah often says it's best herself. Brian is a better speaker to this issue. Yes. Because he brings the masculine perspective. And here at on Healthy Mind and Healthy Life, we talk about mind over masculinity. That's exactly what we do. We hold space for that masculine voice, not to be stoic, but to be seen. Yes. So, dear listeners, this episode is about breaking the silence about or around male suicide, challenging the myths around the hopelessness, and offering real, hard won hope for everyone, especially for a man who's ever thought about letting go. So, let's get into this life changing conversation and welcome to the show again. So, Deborah, I'd love to come to you and ask, like, you have spoken about like being completely overcome by the hopelessness, not just one, but uh, over many years. So, if you can just quickly share, like, what hopelessness felt like for you and why it's such a powerful force.
Mm, that's a very good question. The aspect of how powerful that force can be. And for myself, it built over many years. I started fantasizing, or what they call suicide ideation, at age 10. And at age 12, I tried just by swallowing a bottle of aspirin, which didn't do anything except made my ears ring and made me a bit sick to my stomach. But at age 19, the hopelessness had built within me over the years. And even though I was finally out from under my parents' abusive rule, uh, I snapped. I had been married by that time by about a year to my high school sweetheart. and he and I were having problems, and I was living in a, in a drug house just as a roommate. I wasn't a druggie. I tried to become an alcoholic at one point, but I wasn't able to. I kept drinking myself sober. But that night, I decided, boom, this is it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I just swallowed every pill in sight and just washed it down with a bottle of vodka. And I almost accomplished it. They weren't sure I was going to wake up. I did come to at one point, just enough to know that I was throwing up. So they were emptying my stomach as best as they could. And that's what happened. That's how it came on with me. It took years and years and years of building up. But when it finally hit, boom, I decided to do it, and that was it. And that's generally 9 times out of 10 the way it works. Brian's story is a little different. In fact, it's a lot different.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, why do you think that most people, especially men, miss the signs until it's very late? So, what do you have to say on this?
For me or Deborah?
For Deborah, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to talk to Brian. You asked, what are the signs?
Yeah.
I love to answer this question loud and clear. There aren't any shortcuts here. If you would have seen Brian walking to the bridge, if you would have seen me moments before I attempted, you would have never known that I was going to do that. And you would have never known that that's what Brian was up to. And when people want to say, oh, what's the signs? What do we look for? In a very rare occasion, you might find, especially teenagers, starting to withdraw. And everybody marks that off as, puberty, right? They're just going to withdraw. If your teenager is withdrawing, you need to talk to them about suicide and how not to do it. And we have a program to help you discuss that. But 9 teens out of 10, you will not know. They're going to be the football coach, the football uh, king. They're going to be the lead cheerleader. You know, they're the ones that are doing the best, and what they're experiencing is what's called imposter syndrome. And they're freaking out inside. They've got raging hormones. They have thoughts and feelings they've never had before, and they don't know what to do with it. Parents need to be proactive. You need to talk to your teens.
Hmm. Understood. Yeah, very true. Definitely. That's what stuck most. I mean, the silence of it. It's not always dramatic. I mean, it's often hidden behind a strong face and a normal routine. So yeah. So I'll come to Brian now. So Brian, like you have lived through the unthinkable. You made the decisions, carried it out, and somehow you are here. I mean, which is definitely a great part of it. But what was going through your mind that morning? Like, what led you that exact moment?
Yeah, well, just to kind of, you know, set the stage briefly, I've had problems with depression and anxiety all of my adult life and well into childhood too. I mean, especially the anxiety, but the depression came along, as I approached puberty. Um, and so, I mean, had this issue a long time. And then um, in 2015, I took over being a caregiver for my mom because my dad had a bad stroke. And that was really kind of, I found my purpose. I found my reason. This is something important I can contribute to the world. But when she was diagnosed um, with terminal cancer, couldn't be operated on. She was already by that point too weak for chemotherapy, and I went into a tailspin. So I woke up that morning, uh, feeling the worst I ever felt, and I had thought about suicide a lot. throughout my life, just as a habit. But that morning I was really serious about it, and I was trying to think what what possible future do I have? What are my options? And the only future I could imagine for myself would be, so miserable that dying would be preferable. And so over the course of 2 hours, I made that decision. Um, as the best course of action for me and for the ones I love would be for me to die and just be out of the picture.
Got it. And I mean, uh, definitely. Like, do you realize? I mean, in that moment that you realize you wanted to leave again?
Did I realize I wanted to live again? No, it
Yeah.
wasn't actually until some days later, when um, it was, I was pretty badly hurt from my suicide attempt. I jumped off a bridge. It was a train bridge over a highway. Um, and I landed on the dirt to the side of the road. Um, and, um, yeah, I was pretty badly injured. I needed to go into intensive care for I spent 5 days in intensive care. And I was interviewed by a psychiatrist, I think the next day. And she asked me, after we talked, at the end of our conversation, she asked me, "Are you glad that you survived?" And I said, "Yes," but I only said that because I knew that's what she wanted to hear. I wasn't so sure. It wasn't until a number of days later when my friends and family really circled around me and showed me such wonderful love without judgment, without them, you know, blaming me for trying to be selfish or whatever, you know, people sometimes say and what we're afraid that people are going to say. Um, yeah, it was wonderful. And that's when I realized, oh man, I was so wrong. My brain had lied to me. I want to live.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, Brian, like I have to say this way, like your story hits like a freight train, and yet it's kind of shockingly quiet. That's that's what's terrifying, definitely. And you didn't scream, you didn't cry, you just walked. And it makes me think like how many men out there are walking quietly toward the edge right now, and we don't even know that. So that's
No, and I didn't realize how bad off I was until that morning.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Ah, thank you so much, Brian, for sharing this. I guess this will definitely gonna resonate with a lot of men out there, a lot of people out there. It'll definitely bring them some sort of light, definitely. And uh, so I'll come to Deborah. Like EMDR was the turning point for you. So after all those years, what made EMDR different from the traditional therapy for you? So what do you have to say?
I started therapy, of course, right then. When I woke up in the hospital, I had a wonderful psychiatrist that came and worked with me. And being 19, I was of age. So I was not under my parents' rule anymore. So I was an individual. I was considered an adult. And so he worked with me directly. And he did try to get my parents to come in. My mother wouldn't come, and I knew she wouldn't. And my dad came and he just demonstrated why I was the way I was. It just tried to play games with the psychiatrist and make believe he didn't know what was going on, right? The psychiatrist saw right through him. And when he left, that psychiatrist said to me, "You know what, Deborah? Some people should never have been parents." And he gave me permission to live the life I wanted. And he also validated to me that my parents treated me wrong, or that nobody should have suffered what I suffered. So from age 19 until age 62, I went to therapy off and on. Now, sometimes it was years in between where I was doing well and everything in my life was going good. It was only when things would become very challenging that I would start to go back into the suicide ideation and considering it as a solution. But at age 62, I was introduced to the EMDR therapy, and that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That therapy gave me the deep healing that I needed. And for the first time, it was a year or two after I had taken the therapy, I had a happy memory come to my mind from my childhood. And I'd never had that before. That's when I knew I had reached true healing. And for some people, it wouldn't be. For every therapy that's out there, for every resource that's out there, it will resonate with someone who needs it. All I'm saying is that, you need to keep going. You need to keep going to your therapy. You need to keep doing whatever you need to do to keep yourself healthy mentally, or at least resilient mentally, so that you can withstand the challenges, so that you can make it through the darkest hours, whatever that takes for you. And again, I'm not saying you should, go get drugs or alcohol, but that should not be a thing. That's not what I'm saying is whether it's reading or bike riding or something healthy that is going to get you out of that negative mindset.
Hmm. Exactly. And do you think that EMDR could be a tool for men who aren't comfortable opening up in talk therapy?
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And again, if it's administered by a good psychologist or psychiatrist, if it's administered properly, it's, I think, the best that you can get, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, okay. So, okay, I mean, that's really powerful because a lot of men I know are hesitant to talk, but if there's a therapy that helps, definitely, that helps process through, I mean, without having to explain everything, that could be a game changer. Yes. And um, so coming to Brian, like a lot of men feel like if they admit they are struggling, they will lose the respect, especially in the uh, leadership roles, in fatherhood and friendships. So, what do you say to a man who thinks showing pain is a kind of weakness?
Oh boy, yeah, that is so common. Uh, I'm sure it's very similar in India as it is in Canada, and in I was taught boys don't cry, and and then I was told that specifically, but it was also just throughout my life, it was so often it was discouraged to show um to show weakness, vulnerability, uh to show emotional pain. That kind of thing would just get you laughed at. Uh
Mm.
and a lot of that too is also is the things that we put on ourselves, that we do have this very unhealthy, we men have this very unhealthy view of what masculinity is and should be. And so it isn't helpful. And it's not good for us if you are, one of the greatest lessons that has come out in the, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so is that a sort of emotional pain or an emotional injury is as serious as a physical injury and needs it needs treatment. You can't be If you want to be strong for other people, you need to look after yourself also. And so if you can treat that injury, if you can rehab that, sprained knee or torn ACL or something like that, well, you can get treatment and rehabilitation for those mental and emotional injuries as well. And then you can be strong.
True. I agree on this. Yes. And if I may ask, like, what helped you to uh, rebuild your sense of masculine identity after your attempt?
Yeah, well, like I said, it was really my friends and family. I mean, my brothers and we had never been close. They are 7 and 11 years older than me. They're very different people, both very ambitious in their ways. Me, I was not. Yeah, I was not ambitious at all. Um, I was much more sensitive and much more willing to admit, um, those sensitivities and those vulnerabilities. And my brothers they just didn't understand it. Neither of them have ever had. They don't have the chronic depression and anxiety that I do, and so they didn't understand it, and that was a big challenge. But when they realized that they had almost lost their little brother, they really gelled together around me. Uh, so that was incredible. That was life changing for me. And the other thing was having my friends come and visit me, not just come and visit me and say, "Hey, get well soon, big guy," and leave, but they would sit and talk with me and tell me about times that I made a positive difference in their life. And these were things that I had never even thought of. I never even considered that they were in any way significant. If I even remembered them. Do you remember, hey Brian, do you remember telling me such and such? And you're like, oh, kind of, yeah, a little bit. That was, a huge moment. And I think about it to this day. And what? Really? That's when I realized that I do have to something to add, to contribute to the world.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing. And it takes more courage to face your pain than to hide from it. So, yeah, definitely. And so I'll come to Deborah again. Like, your work focuses heavily on youth, like ages 8 to 18, which is definitely brilliant. So, but uh, what about the boys and men after that age? Like, what systems do we need in place to support uh, the grown men, I would say?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I wrote an article once, and it was where are the shelters for abused men?
Mhm.
And what I recognized at that time was that there was so much emphasis on abused women and shelters for them to escape with their children, but there was nothing for men. And
Yeah.
what I realized in those days was that every golf course, every
Mm.
sports bar, you know, that's where they were. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it just broke my heart when I realized that some men were
Mm.
carrying some very significant emotional pain. And women can be just as abusive in a relationship as men. As a matter of fact, the reason I recognized that so clearly was because my mom was the abuser in the family, and she abused my dad. I used to say, I wonder what in the world brought him home at night. Why did he keep coming back? And of course, this was back in the 50s. I was born in 1953. So when I was old enough to recognize my mom's temper tantrums and the cruelty that she handled my dad with and said to him the minute he walked through the door from work, I just
Mm.
stood back and I thought, you know what? The tables are reversed in some cases and nobody notices. Nobody
Mm.
expects the man. Well, they just figure he's going to suck it up and put up with it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, yeah, at least the man should be saying, let's go to couples counseling. At least do something like that. But some men, you just had no idea the cruelty that they're facing. Their
Mm.
verbal, and it's verbal abuse. Men have the upper body strength to express their abuse physically. Women cut deeper. Women can cut way deeper with words and actions and belittling in public. And oh my gosh. Anyway, yes. What resources do they have? They need to get their wife and themselves to a couples counseling where he can express to the counselor what he's going through and help that woman to recognize emotional battery that she probably doesn't realize it, that she's doing it. It's just her way of communicating. So
Okay. Okay. So, what would you, love to see change in how workplaces or the communities support mental health for the men?
if you are asking me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of workplaces nowadays, and my daughter's has this, you get a certain amount of family counseling as part of your benefit package. And the men, quite often, are not as active with that. They're not as proactive with that as they probably should be. Sometimes within their own insurance policies or their own health policies from their work, they could find out if they have coverage for that. Therapy is definitely not an inexpensive thing to do. It's, I mean, I pay $200 an hour at the end. Yeah, and when I was 62, that's what my EMDR was costing me per visit. So if I went twice a month, you know, that's $400 a month going towards my mental health. And I did have a policy. It was I owned my own business at the time, so it was what they call a health spending account. And so you would get your receipts and then you could claim it at the end of the year, but you still had to put out the money to begin with. But it's serious. It's worth it. I mean, if I'd have had a broken leg, I would have had to pay for therapy to walk again, right? So you just have to recognize the value of what you're paying for. You're investing in yourself and your family, especially if you're a father.
Yeah. I agree. Agree. Lovely. I mean, so here I have to. I must say that we we teach boys that to be tough, but then punish men for being broken. And I mean, wow, what to say? I mean, we need a system that supports this emotional literacy. I mean, before the crisis happens. So yeah, and this is very important. Yeah.
I like the way you say that. Emotional literacy is an
Yeah.
excellent phrase. So if you came up with that, congratulations. That's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, if I talk about, I mean, from everywhere. I mean, right now there are a lot of scenarios are happening. Some we get to know, some we do not get to know. Some get suppressed also. But uh, I believe everything is attached without emotions, and there's no one to understand. So yeah. So yeah, definitely. And so I'll come to Brian also that like for any man who is listening right now, maybe sitting in his car or maybe lying awake at night, the one who's thinking that I am done. So what would you say to them?
Oh boy, that's kind of heavy, but yeah, I think Deborah's giving me a visual cue. Um, we have two things. The mission of our company is wait one more day and then another, because emotions are very powerful, and you don't mean to discount them because they're real. Your feelings are facts, but those facts, those feelings, they can change very quickly. And they can change very subjectively. I know if I haven't slept properly, or if I'm hungry, my feelings are entirely out of whack. And feelings, and thoughts and feelings of suicide can can change very drastically based, Deborah. Now I'm telling Deborah's story here, but she would be feeling suicidal, and she would write all of her feelings out on paper, and then she would sleep on it and find that she felt better in the morning. So that lesson of wait one more day is very powerful.
Exactly.
But I mean, obviously, wait one more day and get help. Uh, if you don't now, you may not get that second chance. If your feelings of hopelessness push you into drastic action and you take your own life, so get help. You'll be doing yourself a favor, and you'll be doing all of those who care about you. You'll be doing them a favor too.
Exactly. Exactly true. Yeah. And this is to both of you, like if you have to give one advice to everyone who is listening today, what that would be?
I'm sorry. Was that me?
To both of you, I mean, one by one you can share.
Sure. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Well, yeah. Big one. Wait one more day, and then another. Get help. Um, and talk about it, and find your community where you can talk about it. Don't keep this in, because if you break your foot and you keep walking on it, it's not going to get better.
Okay.
Yes, and I would follow that up as well, because we don't see feelings, we don't see thoughts, they're not tangible. We don't see the band-aids that we're putting on those feelings and thoughts when we're playing the ignoring it game. Denial. I'm really good at denial, man. I can still do that today. But, but really, and we try to very much, and you can hear it when we talk. We try to keep it light. It doesn't have to be this big, heavy, thing. Yes, it is very distressing. You're in distress, but to talk about it as a matter of fact, like Brian said earlier, those feelings are actual. They are real to you. So let's talk about those as if they were of an enemy of yours, wanting to pull you down or wanting to trip you up, wanting to take your family from you. Because if you're gone, who are they going to turn to?
Exactly.
So look at those feelings for what they are. And yeah, that helps somewhere. You have a number of places you can go online today. You can get on the internet and find uh, chat rooms. You can talk, and you're perfectly safe to talk about what you're feeling, and people will respond to you.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree on this, definitely. And um, thank you for sharing this. And I'd love to add one thing that uh, and to all the men who is listening or hearing right now, uh, so let Deborah's and Brian's voice remind you that your story is not over yet. So uh, don't think about it. Just go ahead, be in your life you're enjoying. That's a good part of it. And I have to thank Deborah and Brian. Thank you so much. This is not just for your courage, but for the clarity, I would say that because you have shown us that survival is really very purposeful. And uh, on this, definitely to all the men who is listening, uh, it's very. I want to hear me very clearly that you do not have to carry it all because you don't have to be strong one alone. Because as I mentioned before, that your story isn't over yet. You definitely don't have to keep it together while you are falling apart aside. So suicide is not about the weakness. It's about the overwhelm. And overwhelm can be helped. So uh because what I feel like, no matter what your mind is telling you right now, above everything, you only matter. So, with this, like, if someone wants to connect with you, so Brian and Deborah, what would be the best medium to connect with you?
You can go to our website, which is Survivors of Hopelessness.com. And at the bottom of the page, there's a button that says reach out. If you click on that, you can send us an email and we will definitely get back to you. At the same time, right near that button, there's a music video that I would encourage you to look at, download. It's free. Do what you need with it. It's meant to acknowledge what can be happening. So there's an element of intervention in that video. Prevention, we call our program Pure Prevention because we want to administer it to students, especially ages 8 to 13, before puberty takes hold, so that these youngsters have an understanding of the cycles of life and what they're feeling and why they're feeling it and how it fits into their life and how they fit into life. And that's what our program teaches. It's on the website.
Amazing, amazing. So, uh, dear listeners, I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes so that it becomes easier for you to reach out to Deborah and Brian. And uh, with this hope, this is your host Avik signing off from Mind Over Masculinity with the deepest truth I know as your pain doesn't disqualify you from your purpose. It actually qualifies for your transformation. So we'll see you next time.
Very nice. I like it.
Thank you so much.